There's a specific kind of person you've probably trusted. They remembered details about you. They agreed with you at exactly the right moments. They were generous before you even asked. And at some point, you called them a good friend, a reliable colleague, maybe even someone you could count on. And then something shifted, something broke. And looking back, you couldn't quite understand how you missed it, because all the signs were there. You just didn't know what you were looking at. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his life studying that exact blind spot. Not as a villain, as a realist. He understood something most people refuse to believe, that some individuals don't build relationships, they build positions, and every kindness, every question, every act of loyalty is part of a structure designed to serve one person, them. This isn't about paranoia, it's about pattern recognition, because betrayal doesn't arrive suddenly, it's architected slowly, and it leaves behind 5 very specific blueprints. 5 behavioral patterns that, once you understand them, you will never unsee. The first pattern Machiavelli identified wasn't aggression, it was curiosity. Think about someone in your life who asks deep, thoughtful questions about your fears, your relationships, your past failures, your ambitions. On the surface, this looks like emotional intelligence. It looks like genuine interest, and that's exactly what makes it so disarming. But here's what psychology tells us about how information actually functions in relationships. When 2 people share vulnerabilities, they create what researchers call mutual exposure, a bond built on equal risk. Both people have something on the other. That balance is what creates real trust. The information sponge destroys that balance. They ask everything, they reveal nothing. They sit across from you learning the exact coordinates of your insecurities, your loyalties, your weak points, while keeping their own internal map completely hidden. Imagine a coworker who spends weeks asking you about your relationship with your manager, about why you left your last job, about what really frustrates you at work. You open up because it feels like connection. But they're not building connection, they're building a file, and they'll use that file the moment they need leverage. Not necessarily maliciously. Sometimes it's subtle. Just knowing when to apply pressure, when to mention the right thing to the right person, when to make you feel small at exactly the right moment. Machiavelli warned that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who knows the most and shows the least. The information gap is the power gap. The awareness takeaway here isn't to become closed off, it's to notice balance. In any relationship, vulnerability should move in both directions. If you're always the one opening up, ask yourself why the door only swings one way. The second pattern is harder to spot because it looks like compatibility. You meet someone, you share a belief about something. A week later, they hold that same belief even more strongly than you do. You mention you value loyalty. They suddenly have a deep personal story about being betrayed. You express admiration for a particular kind of person. They quietly reshape themselves to resemble that description. Psychologists call this strategic mirroring. It's a manipulation of what's known as the similarity attraction effect. Our natural tendency to trust people who seem like us. The more alike someone feels, the faster our psychological defenses drop. We stop evaluating and start trusting. What separates genuine shared values from the sudden mirror is timing and flexibility. Real alignment develops gradually, through disagreement, through difference, through moments where 2 people don't see eye to eye but stay anyway. The sudden mirror offers no friction, no difference of opinion, no moment where they push back. Everything you believe, they believe. Everything you value, they value. Picture meeting someone new at work. Within 2 weeks, they're using your phrases, adopting your opinions in meetings, positioning themselves as your ideological twin. It feels flattering. It feels rare. But what you're actually experiencing is a social technique, a mask being fitted to your exact shape. Machiavelli called this the art of the mask. The ability to become whatever a person needs you to be in order to lower their guard. The deeper psychological paradox here is this. We're so starved for people who understand us that we mistake performance for genuine recognition. We interpret the mirror as proof of connection, when it's actually proof of calculation. Watch for the moment they reveal a different opinion to someone else in the room. Because they will, and in that moment, you'll see the mask slip. Here's where it becomes uncomfortable. Because the third pattern involves something that feels like intimacy. A small crisis emerges, a problem only you can help with. Maybe they need advice, maybe they need a favor, maybe they need you to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to help them through it. And here's the critical element. The crisis is just small enough to seem reasonable. but just significant enough to require real sacrifice. What's actually happening is a behavioral test. The controlled crisis is a technique for measuring commitment without revealing why the measurement is being taken. When someone manufactures or exaggerates a small problem to see how much you're willing to give up for them, they're not looking for help. They're gathering data. How far will this person bend? How much will they compromise their own comfort? How loyal are they when loyalty costs something? Think of a friend who manufactures a small emergency, something vague, emotionally loaded, right before you have something important of your own. You cancel your plans, you show up, they seem grateful. But what just happened wasn't rescue, it was measurement. Evolutionary psychology describes this as a dominance probe, a low-cost way of establishing a hierarchy without open confrontation. By seeing how much you sacrifice, they establish, quietly, who holds the higher position in the dynamic. And once that hierarchy is established, it tends to stay. What makes this so effective is that it activates your empathy. You don't feel manipulated, you feel like a good person. That's the entire mechanism. The fourth pattern operates at the social level, and it's where Machiavelli's thinking becomes most precise. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the strategy of dividing those around you to prevent them from forming coalitions against you. The Triangulator applies this same principle to personal relationships. They share confidential information about one person with another. They position themselves as the only trustworthy one in a social group. They manufacture quiet conflict between people who, if connected, might compare notes about them. Here's how it works in practice. They tell you something private about a mutual friend, just enough to create subtle distance. Then they tell that friend something private about you, just enough to plant a seed of doubt. Neither of you talks to the other directly about it. Both of you, separately, begin to trust the Triangulator more because they seem to understand both sides. What they've actually done is cut the direct line between you and everyone else and made themselves the switchboard. All information passes through them. All relationships depend on them. That's not a friendship. That's a system of control. The psychological mechanism underneath this is the erosion of social triangulation, using shared secrets as currency to buy loyalty and dismantle independent relationships simultaneously. The sign you're inside this dynamic, you realize you know a lot about people in your circle through one specific person, and very little from anyone else directly. When one person becomes your primary source of social reality, that's not closeness, that's isolation. The fifth pattern is the most disarming of all, because it arrives wrapped in warmth. Before you've done anything significant together, before you've proven yourself in any meaningful way, before any real trust has been established, they offer it freely. Praise, loyalty, endorsement. They tell other people great things about you. They make you feel chosen before you've done anything to be chosen for. This is what Machiavelli understood as the psychology of debt. Because when someone gives us something valuable, even something as simple as admiration, we feel an almost automatic obligation to return it. Social psychologists call this reciprocity, and it operates below conscious awareness. The premature reward bypasses your judgment by activating this mechanism before you even realize it's happening. Once you feel indebted, once you feel like someone believes in you, you become psychologically reluctant to disappoint them. You start making decisions based on maintaining their approval rather than your own judgment. You've been recruited before you ever agreed to the assignment. The tell is this: the praise is always slightly too broad, too soon, and too specifically placed in front of the right audience. Real recognition grows from evidence. Premature rewards arrive before the evidence exists, and anything given before it's earned comes with an invisible price tag. Now here's the thing worth sitting with. None of these 5 patterns require the person using them to be fully conscious of what they're doing. Some people operate this way because they were taught, early on, that relationships are games with winners and losers. Some do it because vulnerability was never safe for them. Some genuinely don't see it as manipulation, they see it as survival. That doesn't make the patterns less real, and it doesn't make the impact less damaging. Understanding this is not about viewing everyone with suspicion, it's about raising the quality of your attention. Machiavelli's deepest insight wasn't that people are dangerous. It was that danger is always patterned, and patterns, once recognized, lose most of their power. You came into this knowing you'd missed something. Now you have the blueprint. The question is, when you look at the relationships closest to you right now, which of these 5 patterns have you been calling something else?